This brings us to our next speaker. I'd like to introduce Mr. Ajay Singh. He's a supply chain management business and operational leader with 30 years of experience in developing, structuring, operating, and delivering multifunctional tactical and strategic assignments. Mr. Ajay Singh is the Vice President Supply Chain Management for Hindustan Platinum Private Limited. His work has been predominantly in SCM, strategic and tactical sourcing, international multimodal logistics management, international and domestic, statutory compliances, SEZ, EOU, EHTP, customs, international warehousing, outsourced manufacturing in USA, Europe, and Gulf region. A strong team leader and effective communicator with excellent abilities in forging relationships with internal and external customers, he enjoys being part of as well as leading, mentoring, and inspiring successful and productive teams. He follows the Shingo approach and is a Lean Six Sigma practitioner in SCM. He is also an IMDG dangerous goods handling expert for air and sea. He has served various industries such as electronic, electrical, telecom, cable for 17 years, heavy industry steel for 6 years, automobile for 3 years, chemical for 4 years. He has received the Transformational Leader Award 2019 by Institute of Supply Chain Management, Export Award from Elsina 2009, honored by Secretary Telecom, Government of India, Best Awards for International Logistics in 2009 and 2010, for highest achievements in cost optimization among all Asia Pacific factories, including Chinese factories. Mr. Singh has participated in various forums as keynote speaker and panelist in educational institutes, supply chain forums, CII logistics, Indian Chemical Council events. He's also a research scholar, PhD, Shri Balaji University, Pune, 2020 to 23, of Operations Supply Chain Management. He's a visiting faculty and professor with ICRI, Ajinkya D.Y. Patil University, Pune, and Universal Business School, Mumbai. We welcome you, Mr. Singh, and over to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning to all of you. Nice platform to meet all the chemicals fraternity and people within the chemicals, and I represent a vertical which is refined from chemical to a pure medical, or we can call it a precious metal industry, and specialty chemical. So this is what, and thanks for my the introduction, and it is nice to have you all in the session. So I think we can start the presentation. You're putting it up slides, or you want me to put?
So we are putting up the slides. Mahesh, would you be putting up the slides, please? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I represent Hindustan Platinum, the leading manufacturer and refiner of precious metal product and services. And I take care of the entire supply chain management for this organization, where being in India and the US, the plants are located in the various places. The subjects which is, I think we have sort of time, so we can start with the next slide, please. Looking into the supply chain, the disruptions and the way it is happening. Can put it the next slide, please. So my presentation will be part of like supply chain current situation, and going forward, how the disruption happening, how we are handling it to this level, and in the demand fluctuation, as we know in the industry, how the demand fluctuation is happening, and how with the unprecedented situation, how we are able to resolve this situation of demand fluctuations. So going to the global supply chain situation of the current practices in the next slide, uh, we have to segment wise, we can, next slide, please. So global supply situation currently, if you see it post-pandemic, it is basically in the segmentations. We need to adopt the dynamicity of the customer. When you talk about the segmentation wise, because every customer has a unique requirement, and you need to individualize the complete crucial supply chain of the capabilities based on your availability, flexibility, and the cost structure. So it is not that everybody has to like have a one type of supply chain situation being been adopted. It is within the chemical. It also depend upon customer to customer basis and how the complete in the network they are in operating, and your support to the customer, how it is happening. The second part of it is how the asset light network is being adopted in the current situation, meaning uh, as we see that, okay, we are moving away from dependency of import. We are talking about more in-house insourcing than outsourcing. Then how the agility in the complete business model is there, which can leverage the ecosystem of inclusiveness of the partners who are expert in your in the domain of supply chain or domain of the manufacturing, so that they can support with the additional capability or additional capacity, so that any advance or any ad hoc requirement can be leveraged upon, rather than putting your heavy asset into the system. Meaning that we have seen pre-COVID era where multiple plant, multiple factories being put up in across the network. So and it is really made a big gaps in the supply positions what we have seen in during pandemic time, and that is where the structures are basically going forward for the asset like network. And the third part is very critical. I think in the previous presentation, Manik also was presenting about the logistic. Like we need to have a data and applied intelligence process, which can be going into deeper into the supply chain visibility for giving a real-time decision-making process. Meaning, what we need is current in the situation is like you need to have your the speed with the efficiency. That is what the need of the hour, which can be supported with like a different tools within the system, like from AI. We talk about which lately playing a very vital role into the data management system. And what we have seen in around March 2021 in the logistics network, in the whole supply chain network, is the Suez Canal disruption, which was yielding around close to 9.6 billion or 9.5 billion disruption every day it was happening. And ultimately, it was like the visibility which has come into the picture, that how your complete end-to-end supply chain is visible into the system, which can at least leverage upon to come out of the disruption, because it was almost for a 32 days, it was the disruptions were there. So how your complete supply chain in the system was taking care out of it. So this is a real which can be put it across through the real time decision making process. So that is what in the situation in the current global supply chain solutions. Uh, uh, Going to the next slide, which will be more on the how we can handle uh, the disruptions. Okay, so basically there is no one complete solution to apply and get this solution done, but and looking into the various forum, various discussion, and various integrated services being developed by various industry is based on the developing an integrated global operating model, saying that okay, how you can your control tower mechanism, how it is working so dynamically, looking into manufacturing's option uh, vis-a-vis your whole dynamic business plan. So that is the way you can make your supply chain more robust, more up to the market, and more closer to the customer, and which can enhance your logistic capabilities, considering your global trade enhancement and standardizing your routing and the movement of goods. I'll not talk more about it because already it has been discussed more on the logistics part of it. And the third part is how we can do the minimize the disruption is basically employing a digitally enabled supply chain management, which is the thrust of the hour, like putting up a processes like RPA, robotic arms, like machine learning, AIs, and standardizing the process, which will bring it to optimize the whole the link in the system, like as I think previous presentation also was talked about the touch points. The lower the touch points, the more enabled or efficient your supply chain is. So that is where digitally enabled system of supply chain management will enhance the complete disruption of it. And as the current process is going toward the sustainability, which is transforming from environment to social to society, is looking into a sustainable economy, right? So how the economy will be more sustainable as such, considering the complete uh, ecosystem, which we transformed from lean manufacturing to green manufacturing, and now we are talking about more on the sustainable manufacturing. So to support that, we need to have our own supply chain system so that we can avoid the disruptions. The next part of our discussion today is considering the demand fluctuation. Going into the next slide, which talks about more on the how to handle the demand planning or demand forecast. Next slide, please. So you can see it everywhere that drastically the shortening of the lead time and the response time is what the expectations are from the customer, because everybody is looking into in the whole supply chain network is uh, is up to the mark right now or maybe of yesterday. So everybody is looking into how we can shorten the lead time so that the inventory blockage, availability of inventory is on the real and just in time, which was the talk of the things in the 20 years back. So everything is coming into vendor managed inventory or just in time, which is pushing into the system. So every link in the supply chain has to be with the better information. Like every chain on the system has to be a better information way, so that it can be collaborative way to fulfill the requirement from not only the manufacturing setup but also to the customer at the end of the customer consumer point. So how to adjust your just-in-time and inventory management system? That is how to look into a complete demand fluctuation, and uh, looking back to reset our point solutions, meaning how we can going back to the system, looking into an entire network of your supply chain, considering the every point focus right from your tier one, tier two, or tier three supplier coming back to you, and then again your robust supply chain to your customer. Meaning right from manufacturing, it is going into phases of like system taking place in such a way that you are fulfilling the requirement of a customer at the need of the hour. That is where we can shorten the lead time, and especially the response time is can be predictable, because that is where you have to focus your whole supply chain network. Going to my next slide is how we can the demand fluctuation during the unprecedented situation, how it can be overcome. So basically, it will be a appropriate historical data has to be relooked into it. I'm not talking about the historical data of like 2 year, 3 or 4 year, because that is not the demand fluctuation is talking about today. Is talking about what is 3 months, 6 month, and 9 month period. So we are not about like historical data of 3 to 5 years, but it is appropriate historical data which will be there for the current supply chain situation to be considered. And considering that, you need to have a qualitative data which will have to define and really indicates that where is the bottlenecks and are there, and how we can pull in your information to take a strategic decisions of fulfilling the requirement. And that leads to a improve your communication between the departments, between the like internal and external or both way. As we said, there are three flows in the system, like product flow, information flow, and cash flow. So this will be how you're improving the communication of like clarification, going into the stages of procurement, manufacturing, fulfillment. So every trend has to be looked into it, and on dot communication within department of the stakeholders and going it outside of the system. That is important. Which trigger it to considering also trends into the seasonality, into the to be taken into account, because seasonality plays a very vital role, in considering, like, okay, what has happened into, the way it has happened in Suez Canal cases, or maybe any other seasonality. Maybe you are doing a outsource, in-source, and import and export. So looking into the consideration of that seasonality is very much important, which will lead to a, removing your period of stockouts from your forecast, because meaning that there are various obstacles happen during pandemic, post pandemic, which will be a situation where stockouts happen. So you need to remove those obstacles from your forecast. Otherwise, it not lead to a right mechanism of handling the demand fluctuation, and it always be a error in a situation which give a wrongful information regarding the demand fluctuations. So these are all the pointers which really you need to look into it when we talk about the demand fluctuation and supply chain disruptions. I think we were on time, and uh, I think I have to hard stop at this moment of time. And if at all any the questions or anything is required related to that, I think we can take it at the end, or at the end of the session. So thank you all for listening me for a short span of 20 minutes, because this is a vast topic, and it is considerably very short time to describe this the whole situation of the supply chain disruption and the demand fluctuation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ajay. That was very great talk that you gave. And so I'll pick up few points from your discussion. So certain things that I noticed was, one is you mentioned the handling of crisis in supply chain disruptions and fluctuations. Now, that became a very important thing for us, in the last recent years. We have seen that this has become like a very critical thing. And then people had to revisit their structures, their models, their networks, and go through the whole process. So that became very important for people to address as the first thing, rather than looking at manufacturing of products. Then a
Correct.
satellite network, that is something that you mentioned. It is definitely a critical thing that people have to look into, a satellite network. And then data and applied intelligence, here where digital technology definitely played an important role. And that also everyone wanted to do track and trace, from end to end visibility. As one of the things you mentioned was the Suez Canal disruption. We saw a lot of disruption happening in Germany also, due to seasonality functioning and changes, and congestion in the ports. So here people wanted to see the end to end container movement, and track and trace, say, visibility became very important for the industry. And that is definitely a strong point where the industry will have to revisit their logistics and supply chain models. And then something you mentioned in real time decision making, that is how it supports you in taking the next step. So that is the importance of all the whole thing coming together. That is what I'm guessing. And then just in time inventory management system, that I think is more for a digital solution that we can look into. And then shorten the lead times, definitely people were looking for it, but then again logistics played a very critical role in this. People could not address it very easily. And communications between department that you mentioned, that is definitely very important, because this was actually the time where we saw all the departments talking to each other and communicating very aggressively with each other. So if I think that was done from day one, then it would become much easier, rather to take care of it at a point.